How's everybody doing? I'm Jay Elson, and this is Coyote Corner. Well, fresh off its upset of then 11th ranked Northern Iowa, South Dakota looked to keep things rolling on the road. That, however, is something that history has shown to be easier said than done. Not only had USD dropped 5 straight on the road since upsetting North Dakota State last October, but coming into Saturday's showdown with Indiana State, the Coyotes were 0 for 13 all-time in Valley road games that were played outside. That streak finally came to an end Saturday against the Sycamores. To Terre Haute we go. The Coyotes' only previous appearance at Memorial Stadium resulted in a lopsided loss, but this South Dakota team came to play. Fourth play from scrimmage, Chris Strevler hits Alonje Brooks in stride, 69 yards for the touchdown. Second straight game that those two have connected on a play of 60-plus. Coyotes threatening again after an ISU turnover, and Trevor Bama makes good on that threat. Takes it in from 7 yards out, and it's 14-3. Yotes add to their lead a few minutes later. Miles Bergner connects from 49 yards, and with that kick, he moves into first place in the Coyotes' all-time scoring list. Indiana State gets one back before the end of the quarter. Isaac Harker to Miles Thompson for a 46-yard touchdown. Yotes, though, still up 17-10 after one. Same score in the third. Sycamores strike again. Harker finds Robert Tanyan Jr. this time. That one covers 48 yards, and it's all tied up. Yotes answered with 3 on their next drive, and then the defense delivers another big play. First career interception for Alex Gray. South Dakota takes over at the ISU 16, and they'd cash it in 4 plays later. Drew Potter with his 3rd touchdown grab of the season, and it's 27-17. It stayed that way until late in the 4th. The Sycamores rattle off 10 points over the final 2 minutes, starting with this 23-yard scoring strike from Harker to Thompson, and we'd go to overtime tied at 27. After the teams traded field goals in the first extra frame, Bergner hits again to start the second. His 4th field goal of the day puts South Dakota back in front. That meant Indiana State could win it with a touchdown, but on 3rd and 2, the defense strikes again. Jacob Warner picks off Kelvin Cook's ill-advised pass, and that was it. South Dakota's 4th takeaway of the day seals it as the Coyotes win their 2nd straight, 33-30 in double overtime. Ryan Sager finishes 10 of 17 for 54 yards and a touchdown in relief. He also ran for 31. Michael Frederick had his best game of the season, as did Alonje Brooks. Defensively, there were a couple of standout statistics. We talked about the takeaways, but the Yotes also recorded 5 more sacks and held Indiana State to 1 of 4 in the red zone.
We have a lot of heart, when it comes to close games. We play our hardest. We just got to get our offense and our defense rolling at the same time, playing well at the same time. If we do that, games shouldn't be this close.
We got to get used to playing as the favorites and play with that chip on our shoulder that we deserve to be here in the Valley and deserve to play against the best of the best and get wins and expect wins.
So the Cardiac Coyotes strike again. We'll get the head coach's thoughts on the thrilling win in Terre Haute after this.
Coyote Corner on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dakota Land Honda, and your Core Trust Bank.
Well, for the first time since 2013, South Dakota is above 500 in the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and just like last time, the Coyotes got there with a win over Indiana State. And joining me now to talk a little bit more about his team's latest victory is head coach Bob Nielsen. Bob, relief or satisfaction? Which term best describes your feeling after that one on Saturday?
A little of both. Certainly some relief. I think it was a game that we had an opportunity again, for the second time in 2 weeks to really put away and make the win a little easier on ourselves. But at the same time, really proud of the way our guys are finding ways to win right now.
All right, well, we'll get more into the finish in a bit, but we talked last week about how important it was going to be to build on what you did against UNI. And for the second straight week, the offense comes storming out of the gate, 17 first quarter points. How much confidence were you guys playing with at that point?
A lot. Made a big play, got a turnover. We're moving the ball pretty well, putting points on the board, and It was the kind of first quarter that you want to have when you're playing on the road.
Yeah, especially on the road. Well, the second quarter, for whatever reason, different story. Just 32 total yards on 11 plays in that second frame compared to 150 on 24 snaps in the first. So why did things shift so dramatically for you?
That's a good question. We unfortunately, over the last couple of weeks, we've hit those ruts where we just have not been able to get first downs. And our problem, honestly, in the second and third quarter on Saturday was third down conversions. We were on schedule a lot of the time in third downs, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, even a couple of 3rd and 2s, and just didn't get the first down to keep the drive alive.
Now, despite those struggles, you still carried that 17-10 lead into the half, but you come out for the third quarter, and one major change. It's Ryan Sager at quarterback. So what happened to Chris Strevler? Because I didn't see it during the game. And what's his status going forward?
Yeah, well, Chris, wasn't feeling right at halftime. And obviously, anytime you're dealing with the potential of a head injury, you're always going to be really careful with your players,
Mm-hmm.
and it was obvious that he wasn't going to be able to play in the second half. And so, as I said, as we started the year, we've got depth at that position, and it was great to see Ryan step in and lead our football team to a couple scores there in the third quarter.
As you mentioned, Ryan came in, gave you a bit of a spark when he got his chance to play, complete 6 of 7 passes for 36 yards and a touchdown in that third quarter to help you stretch the lead out to 10. So as you consider it now, how pleased are you with the way he came out and performed?
Well, he played like a senior, a senior that's played a lot of football. And, Ryan's attitude's been unbelievable with regard to the fact that as a returning starter at quarterback and not having played very much over the first 5 weeks, he just keeps working. He's a positive leader for our football team, and when he stepped on the field was that same positive leader.
As he said to me after the game, there's a reason that his teammates voted him a captain, and it's that kind of example that he sets for the rest of the team, correct?
Yeah, he's a very mature young man that understands the world of college athletics and also understands what we need out of that position, and I thought he really managed the game well.
Well, you mentioned third downs and the struggles that you had on Saturday. We actually talked about this quite a bit so far this season. I know much to your chagrin, but and that's really obviously what allowed Indiana State to surge back to tie this game late. But I want to talk about one in particular, and that was the one to throw it after the Sycamores had burned their final timeout late in the game. Was that just simply a go for the win kind of call?
Well, we were in 3rd and 9 situation. The only way we were going to get the first down at that point, because they were playing everybody in the box, was to throw the football. And so we had two options. One was to run the ball with the understanding that we're going to punt it back to them, give them the ball with about a minute to play, or take a chance, throw the football, and if we got a first down, the game was over. If not, we were going to punt the ball to them, and they'd have about a minute 30 left in the game. And so we made the decision to, we thought we could get a guy open. We did get a guy open. We underthrew the ball a little bit. Most of the time I would say, we're going to burn the clock, but we just felt that was the right decision for the day on Saturday.
Okay. Well, overtime starts with 3 straight field goals, so Indiana State gets the chance to win it in that second overtime with the touchdown. But they got a little tricky on 3rd and 2 from the 17-yard line. Your guys looked absolutely ready for this particular play, too. So can you kind of take us through how it all went down?
All day our guys played great red zone defense. We had a red zone stop, 2 red zone stops, and then obviously on the first overtime forced them into a long field goal there. That play was one of their trick plays. They're a team that uses a lot of trick plays in the red zone, and actually one that our guys had worked against and recognized, and we reacted to very well. And the interception was really just the icing on the cake.
It was kind of fitting, too, that the game ended on a turnover, because that was your 4th takeaway of the day. This was actually the first time all season that you came out ahead in this department. You were +3 in the turnover margin for Saturday. Do you think that's the biggest reason you won this football game?
Turnover margin's important, and we talk about it all the time, and our defense did a great job of forcing turnovers on Saturday. and that's something that we've got to keep turned around as we keep moving forward.
All right, another guy that deserves a fair share of the credit is Miles Bergner. He hits 4 more field goals for you, including what proved to be the game winner. But to top all of it off, he becomes USD's new all-time leading scorer. Quite a day, quite a career for Miles Bergner.
You know, great for him, and a guy that's done a lot here and got a lot of work ahead of him yet. I think the thing that you get spoiled as a coach, you're lining up for a 41-yard field goal, and you feel like you're kicking an extra point when you got a guy like Miles. And those were pressure kicks in overtime. I don't think people realize just how big those kicks were.
All right, well, congrats on another heart-stopping win, Bob, and thanks for your time once again this week.
My pleasure.
All right, well, Illinois State up next for Coach Nielsen and the Coyotes. We're going to take a closer look at that one in a bit, but first, Andre Fields is going to offer up his thoughts on the win over the Sycamores. Statistics usually tell a pretty accurate story, and that was certainly the case in the Coyotes' win over Indiana State on Saturday. And here to help us break down some of those numbers once again is Midco SN analyst Andre Fields. Andre, turnovers have been a theme this season for South Dakota, and there's been a few weeks where that's been a bad thing, but not this week. The Coyotes won the turnover battle for the first time. They finished +3 for the day, and maybe even more importantly, they converted a couple of those takeaways into points. Had to feel good to see that number finally swing a game in their favor.
Absolutely. That was probably one of the bigger things, is not turning the ball over or turning it over at the wrong time. Obviously, when you don't turn it over at all, or if you don't make those mistakes in critical moments, you put yourself in better position to win. We saw that, obviously, and I'm sure that's something that they're going to continue to address week after week as they move forward.
Next step, getting through a game without giving it away. The Coyotes have not done that yet, but the good news is their turnover margin now stands at +1 for the season, so baby steps, right?
Yes.
All right, well, the defense gave up some yards on Saturday, 466 total, which included a couple of long touchdown passes, but bending and breaking, as you know, 2 totally different stories, and they were at their best where it mattered most, meaning Indiana State scored on just one of its 4 trips inside the red zone. That's tough to do.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's what you want out of your defense, though, is if you're going to give up those yardage, then you got to make it count when it gets tight. And it gets tight in that red zone, and they did that. And so it's something that they can build on. I'm sure they've talked about this each and every week. They're averaging giving up about 400 yards a game. They're going to get that turned around, but this is something that they're going to look at and say, hey, if we can stop them when it gets tight in there in the end zone, we can stop them on 3rd and 4th down when it's also tight to the sticks. So they get that cleared up, put both sides together, they'll be on the right track.
And on the flip side of this, South Dakota converted on all 3 of its red zone opportunities. The Oats, one of just 4 teams in the country now that is still perfect in that department. They're 15 for 15. 10 touchdowns, 5 field goals. That's impressive.
That is impressive. I mean, that's what you need. And when you have a kicker like Miles Bergner, you know you can get those points. You take a couple extra shots at the end zone. But to be perfect on the season, this far into the season, can't beat that.
Absolutely. All right, well, another major story with the offense was the situation at quarterback. Chris Streveler sat the second half with a concussion. So in comes Ryan Sager, and he was solid in relief. Here's what he had to say about his performance.
I was very comfortable being out there. Obviously, being in the position that I was last year, and you know, the nerves and the situation didn't get to me. I had a lot of support from my teammates and my coaches. I know they're confident in me, and you know, I'm a team captain because my teammates voted in me and they believe in me.
Now, we talked a lot in the preseason about what a luxury it was to have multiple quarterbacks that you could trust. We saw why on Saturday. Sager's an experienced guy, and he played like it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you expect out of him. Somebody who's come in these situations before, played well, had success, been in the program a long time. So, yeah, the guys are going to rally around him, but he has the composure enough for himself to come in those situations and perform lights out.
And a guy that had won on the road before, and he does it again on Saturday with a good second half. All right, well, another guy who did his job well on Saturday, just as he has all season. You mentioned him earlier, Miles Bergner, the senior, connected on 4 of 5 field goals, including the 2 in overtime, to help lift the Coyotes to this victory. Throw in the 3 extra points, Andre, and his career scoring total stands at 247 points. That makes him number 1 all time at South Dakota.
Such a luxury to have Miles as your kicker. I mean, he's very, very consistent, and that's what you need out of a kicker, obviously. Already now, 3 or 4 Missouri Valley Special Teams Player of the Week awards. I mean, if he continues this pace, he's obviously going to put himself in position to possibly be Special Teams Player of the Year and help Coyotes get a lot more victories.
All right, well, that's 2 in a row.
Yes.
They're heading in the right direction. All right, thanks, Andre. We'll see you back here next week. All right, well, South Dakota's going to go for a 3rd straight win Saturday against Illinois State. We'll preview the Coyotes matchup with the Redbirds next. And welcome back. Well, South Dakota is going to look to stay hot this week when they kick off a 2-game homestand against Illinois State. In what came as a surprise to many, the Redbirds dropped their first 3 league games before rebounding last week with a 31-28 win over Southern Illinois. Coach Nielsen says that might be all it takes for a team like this to turn its season around.
You don't beat Big Ten schools like they did against Northwestern and not be a really good football team, and it just shows you how good our league is. As I watch them on film, hard to believe that they've started 1-3 in the league, but they've played a tough schedule, and I think are playing their best football right now.
Now, the Redbirds lost a couple of big-time playmakers in quarterback Trey Roberson and Marshawn Koprick to graduation, but returned the rest of their starting offense. That includes wide receiver Anthony Warham, whose 22 career receiving touchdowns is tied for 3rd all-time at Illinois State.
Well, just like last week against Tanyan, you have to account for where he's at. Coverage-wise, he's a guy that's going to be a go-to guy, a guy that has the capability of making big play receptions, and I thought we did a good job of that last week. We're going to have to do a good job again this week.
Warham and the Redbirds will visit Vermillion this Saturday with kickoff slated for 2 p.m. at the Dakota Dome. Just a reminder that this is the only home game that will not be televised on Midco Sports Network. Instead, our coverage this week will be the same as it is for most road games. So look for live updates throughout the day on Twitter at Elson Midco SN. Well, who says you have to be a big guy to make a big impact? Taylor Lambert is proving effort can be every bit as important as stature. We'll share his story next.
Coyote Corner on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dakota Land Honda, and your Core Trust Bank.
Well, his teammates call him the Bulldog, and for good reason. USD junior Taylor Lambert might not be the biggest D lineman on the field, but he definitely plays with the most heart, and it's paying off in a big way. Kelly Stewart has more.
5 feet, 10 inches, 245 pounds. That's what Taylor Lambert is listed at on the USD roster.
But he plays like he is 6'5", 270.
He may not look like your typical D lineman, but that hasn't stopped him from making plays. Lambert has been a huge asset to a group D-line coach Brian Munson refers to as the Shop Wreckers. In fact, through 6 games, he's leading the Coyotes with 7 tackles for loss.
I was a wrestler in high school, and that kind of helped me learn to use my leverage against bigger people, and I just go out every play with 100% effort, and sometimes good things happen, I guess.
He has the ability to put himself in positions that are very difficult for offensive linemen to block him. And with the effort and his quickness and his burst and the power that he has, he's able to get through guys pretty fast.
It's the type of attitude and effort coaches dream of having in their program. And another plus, Lambert is a local kid. The North Sioux City native is happy that he stayed close to home and takes pride in being an inspiration to young athletes.
Looking like back home where I came from and everything, they were an amazing community. They were so supportive through whatever sport I played, whatever I wanted to do. I love coming here and watching like the little kids, the little 3rd and 4th graders play games. I know they kind of really look up to me, which I try to set the best example as I can for them.
And as a coach, you couldn't ask for a better example to future Coyotes. Lambert's team-first attitude has been reflected in his willingness to play wherever he's been needed. This is actually his 3rd different position in as many seasons.
I've always liked being kind of up close and personal in the trenches, so to speak. And so, yeah, I really welcome the change, and I'm glad it happened.
And given his production, it certainly looks like it was the right move. Once deemed a concern, Lambert has helped South Dakota's shop wreckers become one of the team's strengths. 14 of the team's 20 sacks, which is the second most in the Valley, have come from the defensive line. 3 of those belonging to number 97.
The other thing about it is that kids like that make your defensive line a whole lot better because everybody is competing. And when you get all 8 guys that are rotating, or 9 guys, however many guys we're playing, when they start rotating like that, good things are going to happen.
And with a mindset like Lambert's, it looks like a lot of good things are coming for him and the Coyotes.
I've been down too and thought negative on some things, but you just try to be as positive as you can, put your head down and keep going.
Well, Lambert is just a junior, but it looks like he'll be sticking on the D-line for quite some time. He did mention, however, that in all of his time at USD, he's never been worried about what position he's going to play. He always just wants to give his all in whatever situation he's in, Jay.
All right, thanks, Kelly. Well, before we go, let's get a quick check on soccer. Mandy Green's team picked up a big win over D-Days, blanking reigning Summit League champion North Dakota State 4-0. Friday, the Coyotes looked to double down as they played host to defending tournament champ South Dakota State. Pick it up late in the first half. USD on the free kick. Caitlin Potachik's service ends up in the back of the net. Take another look. 1 bounce and in. First goal of the year for Potachik. 1-0 Yotes. Fast forward to the 62nd minute now. Here they come again. Great ball from Sammy Vilwalk to Taryn Labrie. She beats the keeper to put South Dakota up 2-0. SDSU would get 1 back, but the Coyotes hang on from there. South Dakota beats South Dakota State for the first time at the D1 level. 2-1 is your final. And with that win, USD takes an early 2-0 lead over SDSU in this year's South Dakota Showdown Series. All right, that is our time. For Kelly Stewart, I'm Jay Elson. We'll see you back here next Wednesday night for another episode of Coyote Corner.